My name is Marco Rodriguez, and today I'll be presenting the Mendelian Trait Family Tree Project for Biology 1406. In this project, I'll be presenting 4 different sources of explanation that really do need explanation: genes, alleles, Mendelian traits, and dominant versus recessive alleles. Genes. What are genes? Genes are sections of DNA that act like instructions. They tell your body how to build traits like eye color, height, or hair texture. Alleles. Alleles are different versions of the same gene. For example, the eye color gene has alleles for brown, blue, and a few other colors. Mendelian traits. These are traits that follow simple inheritance rules discovered by George Mendel, usually controlled by one gene with 2 alleles. For example, attached versus unattached earlobes or cleft chins. Dominant versus recessive alleles. A dominant allele shows its trait even if only one parent is inherited from, while on the other hand, a recessive allele only shows its trait if 2 copies, one from each parent, are shown. Today we will be using 3 Mendelian traits for this project. Those traits will include the cleft chin, widow's peak, and ptosis, droopy eyelid. Now, to begin this project, I will make sure to also provide information on, basic information over my biological ancestry to make it a little bit more interesting and to build a connection for audience. As you can see here, I am Marco Antonio Rodriguez-Quiroz. I was born on December 6th of 2008 in Decatur, Georgia, United States. I, of course, like God willingly everybody else, have 2 biological parents. My biological parents are, my father, Marco Antonio Rodriguez Mercado. He was born on June 27th of 1964 in Manatee, Puerto Rico. Then my biological mother, her name is Ileana Elizabeth Quiroz de la Fuente. She was born on February 9th of 1976 in Rio Bravo, Tamaulipas, Mexico. So now, we will start with the cleft chin. As a matter of fact, I inherited my cleft chin from my biological father. As you can see in the image provided on the screen, we both have the very same cleft chin. Now, where does he inherit his cleft chin? He, of course, has 2 biological parents. His biological father was Juan Rodriguez Vasquez, who was born on September of 1943 in Manatee, Puerto Rico, and passed away in Lakeland, Florida, United States on July 10th of 2022. He unfortunately did not have the cleft chin, but my grandmother unfortunately did have the cleft chin, but had a very, very unnoticeable one, so I cannot provide an image to prove that. But of course, her name was Rafaela Mercado Torres. She was born on September 1st of 1942 in Manatee, Puerto Rico. She passed away unfortunately on the 4th of July of 2009 in the very same city. Now, we can awfully show and present that, of course, she had the cleft chin, but where did she inherit the cleft chin? And yes, we can go back another generation, just one more generation. Of course, this was my grandfather's parents. Fortunately, they will not make it into this family tree project because, unfortunately, due to the lack of Mendelian traits inherited and, of course, information and images. So we will close this and we will focus on my grandmother's parents, my paternal grandmother's parents. My paternal grandmother's father actually is the one who had the cleft chin. So we can see that we can inherit this cleft chin all the way back to Luis Mercado Medina, who was born on July 3rd of 1910 in Manatee, Puerto Rico, and passed away on December 20th of 1996 in Tierras Nuevas Poniente, Manatee, Puerto Rico. Now, we finally got information over who was or where our cleft chin was inherited from. Of course, his biological parents were Juan Carlos Mercado Rodriguez Morovis, 1863, 3rd of May of 1948, Manatee, Puerto Rico, and of course, his biological mother, 1885, July 29th, 1975, Puerto Rico. Her name was Rafaela Medina Gonzalez. And of course here, just a little bit of more ancestors over here, but in general, we're not going to go over them since, of course, there's little to no information about any genetic traits inherited. And of course, over here, Rafaela Mercado Torres' mother, Dolores Torres Ruiz, born on August 5th of 1920 in Manatee, Puerto Rico, and passed away on April 8th of 1996 in Manatee, Puerto Rico. Fun fact, she actually is a direct descendant of one captain from Ireland who arrived, and one Taino chief king in the 1500s. Now, unfortunately, we're already done with the Puerto Rican side of my family, aka my biological father's side. The other two Mendelian traits are from my mother's side. So we will close this off and we will go to my biological mother's side. So of course, as stated before, my biological mother, her biological name was Quiroz de la Fuente. Now, for this, we will focus next on the Widow's Peak. So yeah, let's go see what the Widow's Peak. So as you can see, I have the Widow's Peak myself, and as the image provided on the screen, my mother also had or has the Widow's Peak on her. Now, where did she inherit this Widow's Peak? Of course, as you can see here is a little bit of information over a little bit of my ancestors. So unfortunately, her biological father did not have the Widow's Peak. My biological father was Vicente Quiroz Rodriguez. As you can see here, he was a football player. He was famously known in Tamaulipas. Unfortunately, he did not inherit the Widow's Peak. Of course, he was born on April 16, 1941 in Laredo, Tamaulipas, Mexico, and passed away on December 15, 2002 in Austell, Cobb, Georgia, United States. Now, my mother's biological mother was Consuelo de la Fuente Sanchez. Unfortunately, as you can see, she recently just passed away just about a half a year ago. But as the image provided, she also actually had the Widow's Peak. So as you can see, the Widow's Peak already runs 3 generations to my family. She was born on November 7th of 1949, so she would have turned 76 years old just a few days ago. Well, as of recording this, like yesterday. She passed away on May 31st of 2025 in Reynosa, Tamaulipas, Mexico. So now, where did my grandmother Consuelo, or what they call her, Chelo, inherit the Widow's Peak? Unfortunately, she did not inherit it from her biological father. Her biological father was Benjamin Antonio de la Fuente Zamora. He was born on January 17th of 1931 in Saltillo, Coahuila, Mexico, and passed away on May 6th of 1966 at a very young age from cirrhosis in Ciudad Rio Bravo, Tamaulipas, Mexico. He was a very interesting man, very interesting family, very rich family. Fortunately, there will not be any explanation for any inherited traits, since there is no inherited traits available in my family tree, or from me exactly, or even from my parents from this side of the family. But very interesting and super grateful. Now, of course, this leaves my biological grandmother's mother, my great grandmother Florisa Sanchez Neira, who did inherit the Widow's Peak, as you can see in the image provided. Those are very good evidence that this Widow's Peak is very dominant, and yes, all 3 of these Mendelian traits are all dominant. None of them are recessive in my family tree, since only one parent has these traits. Now, my great-grandmother Florisa Sanchez Neira was born on April 14th of 1928 in San Buenaventura, Coahuila, Mexico, and she passed away just 6 years ago on September 1st of 2019 in Rio Bravo, Tamaulipas, Mexico. Now, because I really like genealogy and I'm very passionate about genetics, I do want to talk about just at least one more generation that this Widow's Peak still is visible. Now, of course, this comes from one of her parents. So, of course, her biological father was Eugene or Eugenio Sanchez Neira. Of course, we will see that one of these allele traits was inherited, of course, from her biological parents. So, of course, we will talk about her biological father. And unfortunately, this man did not have the Widow's Peak visible in the family tree. But, of course, to get to know him, his name was Eugenio Sanchez Neira. He was born on January 18th of 1900 in San Buenaventura, Coahuila, Mexico, and passed away on August 31st of 1975 in Rio Bravo, Tamaulipas. Now, for the final one, or the final individual that had the Widow's Peak, was of course my great-grandmother's biological mother, who is my second great-grandmother. And her name was Dora Ofelia Neira Elgazabal. She, of course, has a very interesting name. Of course, she has a lot of Spanish blood, Spaniard blood, a lot of governors, kings and queens with rare last names are, of course, in her lineage. So yeah, it's a little weird seeing her name like that. Not that common, but of course a little bit more common in this area of Mexico. But of course, as the image provided, she did have the widow's peak, and that's where our widow's peak is inherited from in our family tree. As a matter of fact, out of all the images in my family tree, this is the only lineage with the widow's peak, so which is very interesting. Of course, Dora Ofelia Neira Elgazabal was born on August 9th of 1907 in Musquis, Coahuila, Mexico, and she passed away around 1996 in Rio Bravo, Tamaulipas, Mexico. Now we're gonna go a little bit back, and we will go back to this, or get back to this soon, but we have to start at the very beginning for this third and final Mendelian trait. So this third and final Mendelian trait is the ptosis, or also known as the droopy eyelid. Now this is very hard to view and see. You really do have to see and check very, very detailedly whether or not an individual has ptosis, or more noticeable to see it in images. So we're blessed to have these images, so we can finally trace where this gene goes far back. And I saved this one for last because it has the most interesting one, and I go the farthest family. I can get the farthest with this Mendelian trait. So of course, as you can see in the image provided, in all of my images, in most of my images, in most of my pictures, I have one eye, usually, of course, as inherited, my left eye is a lot more closed than my right eye. And of course, as repeated again, most, if not all of my images has this ptosis droopy eyelid, primarily noticeable in images. So of course, as you can see, I have it. Now I inherited this trait from my biological mother, who also has this on her very same left eyelid. She also inherited this trait. So once again, it's a dominant trait. And so yeah, let's go straight up over here. She inherited this droopy eyelid from her mother, Consuelo de la Fuente Sanchez, as you can see in the image provided. Unfortunately, if I do not have the image, she did not have so much of a noticeable droopy eyelid, but she did have it. So sorry if I do not have that extreme or easily noticeable photo of her droopy eyelid. But of course, we know that she at least did have it, because my mom did say that she did have it and she did notice it from her, and so did I. Now, she inherited this trait from her biological mother, Florista Sanchez Neira. As you can see, hers is a lot more noticeable. She has a droopy eyelid. Now, she also inherited this from her biological father, who also has the droopy eyelid. His may not show too noticeably, but he does have the droopy eyelid on one of his eyes. So of course, his name was Eugenio Sanchez Neira, born on January 18th of 1900 in San Buenaventura, Coahuila. Passed away in 1975 in Rio Bravo. So of course, now that we know that we have this Mendelian trait inherited from him, of course, we're going to talk about new individuals and where this trait comes from. And as you can see a little bit of names up here. Now, unfortunately, he did not inherit this Mendelian trait from his biological father, whose name was Eugenio Sanchez de Luna. Eugenio Sanchez de Luna was born on November 14th of 1868 in San Buenaventura, Coahuila, Mexico, and passed away around the early years of 1930 to 34. Of course, there's no available image, neither story, and neither much information of who this man was, so none of my family members do not even know who he was, or even if he did even exist. None of my family members even know who he was, or if he even existed. But he did exist, just nobody knew him because he kind of died. It's fine. But of course, his family traits are interesting, I guess. But of course, as you can easily guess and using your context clues, this trait was inherited from my second great grandfather's biological mother. Her name was Maria Betsabeth Neira Gonzalez. She was born around November of 1871. I know this is November 9th, but I'm not sure. There's no information over birthday. So yeah, that's unfortunate. But she passed away at the age of 95 on January 9th of 1967 in Rio Bravo, Tamaulipas, Mexico. Of course, this is the farthest we can go, but just to add a little bit of more interesting ideology over this, I do have one image from one of her brothers, and he was a very prominent man in the 1910s, 20s. We have all these other individuals. I am also a direct descendant of Jose Victoriano Neira Gonzalez. Now, the very youngest one was none other than Bruno Neira Gonzalez, or also known as General and Governor Bruno Neira Gonzalez. As you can see, he was a very prominent figure in the Coahuilan Mexican history during the Mexican Revolution. He was a lawyer, Mexican revolutionist, and of course governor of Coahuila. I just wanted to add this because I think it's very interesting and adds a little bit of importance, but also a soft part of my heart of where I come from, because it's all about heritage and genes, right? So of course, as you can see in the image provided, he also had the droopy eyelid on his right eye or his left eye, whichever eye is provided on the image below or on the image provided in the screen. So as you can see, he also had this. In general, that is pretty much it over my family tree inheritance for the Mendelian traits. Thank you for being here, and thank you for listening over just a little bit of where I come from, and of course the traits that I inherited from my parents. Thank you very much, and God bless.